Imagine standing in a forest where the air feels heavier with every breath, where the ground beneath you is soft, almost alive, and something passes just above your head. You look up. Wings. Not feathers. Not a bird. An insect. Its wings stretch wider than your arm, cutting slowly through thick, humid air. It doesn't rush. It doesn't need to. This world belongs to it. Hundreds of millions of years ago, long before dinosaurs ruled the earth, there was a different kind of dominance. Not by massive reptiles but by something far stranger. Plants reshaped the planet, and insects grew into forms that would feel impossible today. This was a world where forests didn't just grow, they controlled the atmosphere itself. More than 300 million years ago, during a time known as the Carboniferous period, vast swamp forests spread across the earth. But these weren't forests like the ones known today. There were no flowers, no grass, no familiar trees. Instead, the land was covered in towering, almost alien vegetation. Giant plants like lepidodendron rose straight upward, their tall, narrow trunks reaching heights of over 30 meters. They didn't branch out like modern trees. They grew like pillars, stretching into the sky before ending in clusters of leaves at the top. Their bark carried repeating patterns, almost geometric, like something designed rather than grown. Nearby, another giant stood, Sigillaria, its trunk lined with vertical ridges, giving it a rigid, structured appearance. And beneath these towering forms, then was crowded with thick ferns, spreading outward in dense layers, covering everything in green. Among them were calamites, relatives of modern horsetails but far larger. Their hollow, segmented stems rose in dense clusters, creating forests within forests. Together, these plants created something more than just a landscape. They created a system. The ground was rarely dry. Much of this world existed as swamp, shallow water, saturated soil, and constant humidity. Plant material didn't fully decay. Instead, it accumulated layer upon layer, slowly compressing over time. These layers would eventually become the coal deposits still buried beneath the surface today. But the most important change wasn't happening on the ground. It was happening in the air. These vast forests were constantly pulling carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and releasing oxygen. And as they expanded, something extraordinary began to happen. Oxygen levels started to rise. Not slightly, dramatically. Scientists believe that during this time, oxygen levels may have reached as high as 30 to 35%. Today, that number is just around 21%. That difference changed everything. Because in this world, breathing was easier. And for insects, that changed the rules completely. Insects don't breathe the way larger animals do. They don't have lungs. Instead, oxygen enters their bodies through tiny openings and travels through a network of tubes. This system works well, but it limits size. At least it does today. But in a world where oxygen was far more abundant, those limits began to stretch. And slowly, over generations, insects began to grow. At first, the changes may have been subtle. Slightly larger wings. Slightly longer bodies. But over time, something remarkable emerged. Creatures that would feel unreal today. High above the swamp forest, something moved through the air. Meganeura. A dragonfly-like insect with a wingspan reaching up to 70 centimeters. Nearly the size of a bird. It didn't dart quickly like modern insects. It glided, steady and controlled, its large wings cutting through the dense air with slow, powerful motion. From below, it would have been impossible to ignore. This was no small creature. This was a dominant presence in the sky. And it wasn't alone. On the forest floor, something even more unusual moved through the shadows. Arthropods. A massive, segmented arthropod, resembling a millipede, stretching over 2 meters in length. Longer than most humans. Its body moved in waves as it traveled across the damp, navigating through fallen plant matter and thick vegetation. Despite its size, scientists believe it was not a predator. Instead, it likely fed on decaying plant material, which was abundant in these swamp forests. But its size alone would have made it one of the most imposing creatures of its time. And it wasn't just these giants. The forests were alive with countless other arthropods. Early insects, primitive relatives of spiders, and creatures that filled every available space. The air, the ground, the vegetation, everything was in motion. This was one of the first truly complex ecosystems on land. And at the center of it all were the plants. The relationship between plants and insects was not random. It was deeply connected. The dense vegetation provided shelter, stability, and endless organic material. In return, insects played a role in breaking down that material, recycling nutrients back into the system. It was a balance, a feedback loop. The more the plants thrived, the more the insects could grow. And the more the insects processed the environment, the more the plants could expand. For a time it worked perfectly. This was a peak. A moment in Earth's history where conditions aligned in a way that allowed life to reach unusual extremes. But no system like this lasts forever. Because the same world that allowed these giants to exist also held the conditions for their decline. The entire system depended on water. These forests needed constant moisture. Many of the plants reproduced using spores, which required water to complete their life cycles. The swamps, the humidity, the saturated, these were not just features of the environment. They were essential. As long as the world remained wet, the forest could continue. But the planet was changing. Deep beneath the surface, tectonic movements were shifting continents. These changes began to alter global climate patterns. Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, conditions started to become drier. Seasonal changes became more pronounced. Some regions that had once been permanently humid began to dry out. And as that happened, the swamps began to shrink. What had once been vast, continuous wetlands started to break apart. Patches of dry land expanded. Water became less reliable. Things that had supported this entire system began to fragment. For the plants, this was a serious problem. Many of them were not adapted to dry conditions. Their reproduction cycles depended on moisture. Without it, they struggled. And as the plants declined, everything connected to them began to feel the impact. The dense forest thinned. Open spaces appeared. That once existed disappeared. For giant insects, this change was critical. Their size was supported not just by oxygen, but by the structure of their environment. Dense vegetation provided shelter, stable humidity, and a complex space to move through. As that environment broke down, so did their advantage. At the same time, oxygen levels began to fall. With fewer forests actively producing oxygen, atmospheric composition slowly shifted. The conditions that had once allowed insects to grow so large were no longer present. And slowly, the giants began to disappear. The skies grew quieter. Meganeura vanished. The forest floors changed. Arthropods disappeared. The world that had once supported them was gone. In its place, something new began to rise. Plants that relied less on water started to take over. Seed plants, which could reproduce without needing constant moisture, began to spread across the land. These plants were better suited for the changing climate. They didn't need swamps. They could survive in drier conditions. And as they spread, they reshaped the planet once again. The ecosystems that followed were different, more adaptable, more resilient. And within these new environments, new types of animals began to appear. Among them were early reptiles. Unlike amphibians, they didn't need to return to water to reproduce. Their eggs could survive on land. This single advantage allowed them to move further, explore more, and dominate new environments. Over millions of years, they would continue to evolve. And eventually, they would give rise to something that would define the next era of life. Dinosaurs. But by the time dinosaurs appeared, the world of giant insects and towering swamp forests was already long gone. What remains is a story written into the earth itself. The coal beneath the ground. The layers of rock. The fossils of creatures that once seemed impossible. It is a reminder that the world has never been fixed. It changes. Constantly. And sometimes, those changes create moments where life reaches extremes that feel almost unreal. A world where plants reshaped the sky. A world where insects became giants. And a world that rose, thrived, and then disappeared, leaving only traces behind. A lost chapter in the history of Earth. But one that changed everything that came after.